I'm Jason.
We're all
Monster's here. He's sitting on our table,
we all just play a second fiddle to Monster.
hoping for
around here.
Budweiser. Here you go. Come on, lie down. Lie down.
All right, so today on the GORUCK Show, we're going to talk about what is actually a pretty important topic, and it's the fine line between being hard and being stupid. And we're not really going to solicit Monster's feedback on this because he doesn't understand where that line is at all. For those of you that have been paying attention to GORUCK for a while, Monster ate a rope toy several months ago and nearly died.
He did. The surgeon actually called me from the operating table and asked me if I would like for her to proceed with the operation. To which I said, as opposed to what? And she said, euthanasia. To which I said, he's got a better chance of surviving the operation than he does euthanasia. So how about you get back in there and do your beep job, right? And Monster's still with us. Life's pretty good. But yeah, he lost a couple feet of intestine, and he's doing better. Special food and lots of stuff after that. But
He is decidedly less tough since he was stupid.
But maybe he's wiser.
I'm not convinced of that either. No offense, Monster. We love you, man, but I'm not sure that you are wise or tough at this point, but you're cute and
You're
loyal.
making enemies, Blaine.
No,
You are
I'm not. Look at
making
him.
enemies.
Look at him.
I don't mean with him.
Oh, with the GRTs? Sorry, GORUCK Nation. I don't mean to offend. But Monster can take it. But in all seriousness, I think the topic's actually pretty important because both at GORUCK and in sort of the military environment and certainly in the special operations environment, being tough is critically important. It's one of the three words we talk about all the time around here is toughness, excellence, and adaptability, and we want to be all three of those things in every single thing we do. So toughness playing a huge role in everything, it can't be overlooked, but where do we kind of cross that line into being just stubborn or being stupid? And I think that's really worth exploring, and I think we solicited some questions from folks, and this question came up in one form or another from 3 or 4 different people, so I think it's good for us to dive into it today.
Right, so let's preface this. Our roots are and will always be from special forces. And so when it comes to optimal human performance, that's a pretty good proving ground for that. And so there's this idea that you just treat your body like you hate it. Sometimes you do. There's this idea that you just pound your body into the ground. Sometimes you do. It's really tough on your body all the time, and a lot of times it is. But ultimately, if you get injured, you go from being an asset to your team to being a liability. That's bad. So you have to learn how to perform at the tip of the spear and train your body to do that. And your mind's going to tell or set the programming for the type of training that you're going to do so that you can continually perform better but not get injured. Getting injured is not a good thing. It's not sort of, I love America and I love special forces and I love the Army so much that I got broke so bad so many times. That's not cool. I mean, while it is, I mean, I can't help but say I admire the toughness of the generations that came before us that seemed, they seemed tougher somehow. I don't know if that's a right thing, but just like, take some pills and deal with it, right? And the problem is that leads to other problems, that you don't get to perform as well. So that's sort of the culture, but ultimately it's modernizing and evolving. And if you get injured, you're a liability to your team. So whatever you're doing, however hard charging you are, from special forces to anything in that sort of realm or GORUCK stuff or obstacle course racing or whatever, the goal is not to get injured.
Yeah, I think that's changed a lot over the last few years for the better, for sure. You tell me your experience, but I know when I showed up to a team, it was still very much part of the culture to just talk about how broke you were. A lot of guys would just sort of say, I've been in this a while, I'm broke now. And what I didn't like about it wasn't that they had gotten broke, because like you, I kind of admired it. I mean, and they had been working hard and deploying a lot. And you get hurt, you get injured, these things happen, guys get shot. Look, there are ways you legitimately can hurt yourself. But what I didn't like about it was there was almost this resignation with a lot of people that I'm broke now. And there wasn't like, I'm going to do preventative maintenance now. I'm going to start doing some things to rehab now. It's just sort of like I am a level of broke that I just have to sort of live with.
I better go get another lunch bag full of pills.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to do the mission. You can count on me to be there, but I'm going to be at
Which you
some
could.
degraded capacity, right? But I'll be there. I'll show up on game day. I just might be not at my 26-year-old self anymore because I'm broke. And it's tricky because I get all that and I appreciate it, but what we're seeing now in the soft environment is what I think is much more sort of sustainable, which is that guys are doing training programs that allow them to have more flexibility, more mobility, prevent injuries. They're on nutrition programs that allow them to perform a little better. I mean, we didn't do much of that at all when I was doing it. Certainly when I was a lieutenant, I was an idiot, knucklehead lieutenant, and I thought it was a badge of courage to stay out drinking until 2 a.m. and show up and still run 6-minute miles at PT. And while that makes sense to a 22-year-old knucklehead, it doesn't lead to good outcomes down the road. And I'm hoping that we're starting to see a shift for the better in that respect.
So I got really injured in the Q course. I had a bad jump and went out the wrong side of the aircraft after the guy in front of me sort of froze up a little bit. And the risers, as they came out of my parachute bag, whatever you call it, they came across my nose like a semi truck. And my nose was supposed to be the speed bump, but it just flattened my nose, right? And that was not super fun. I woke up mid-descent, from my little, blacking out with blood all over my uniform. I landed feet, ass, head. I cracked my tailbone. I got a concussion, and they put me in med hold during the Q course.
Which is a great place to be.
It's terrible, right? It's sort of like, it's not quite a graveyard, but it's in that land between the living and the dead, And they said, hey, you got a head injury, you need to sort of train up. They said you need to rest, and then you need to prove whether you're physically fit to go back into the course. To which I said, all right, I'm fine, send me back in, coach, right? And, because that's what you do. But the blessing in disguise for me was that it forced me to kind of reconsider a lot of my training because I didn't want to do what I did there after I broke my tailbone and got a concussion, which is I said, hey, I'm fine, put me back in, and they did. And I passed out while I tried to pick someone up doing a buddy carry, right? Blackout, like, the TV stars that you see, the fuzz, whatever, like that's what looked like inside of my brain, like in front of my eyes, not fun. And so anyway, started doing yoga secretively downtown in Fayetteville, on Hay Street, across the street from the indie hippie theater, they served the beer with the popcorn, and it was sort of the nice spot. So there used to be, because there isn't anymore, a little yoga place down there. I went down there every night because they told me I could stretch, which to me is just sort of sounded ridiculous.
That's not exercise.
Right? That's not exercise. And then I showed up and I'm like, okay, well, at least I'll do something like yoga. And I'm getting my ass whooped by this 100-year-old lady who could have been my grandmother's mother, right? She wore sort of purple lipstick, and every time someone would talk about peace, she would start doing some stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is my new competition. The instructor's telling me not to compete with her, so of course I am, right? And she's just kicking my ass. But anyway, through yoga, which I hid from people my entire time in the Q course, I maintained it throughout my career. And I found that I started to learn things about my posture and about, what it meant to stretch for real and have hamstrings that didn't almost feel like they were going to pop every time I wanted to go sprint or something. And so, doing these types of different types of training, I got into swimming because it was completely non-impact. And then I started running a little bit less because it's about the highest impact thing you can possibly do. And I still continue to ruck because that's the foundation of special forces training. But rucking is incidentally a lot less impact than running. Maybe we'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
But the getting more into that kind of stuff was, it proved really a good foundation for later because I didn't want to get injured.
Yeah, I mean, like you are, how valued did you feel when you were in med hold?
Oh.
Did you feel like a valued member of the special operations community?
I felt like a pariah. I couldn't believe that I got a paycheck. I felt like giving someone my paycheck every single time. Like, hey, I don't really deserve this, and you should probably, find some hole for me to crawl in. If I die, I die, right?
Yeah.
It just was terrible.
Yeah, well, ask elite athletes the same thing. Ask an NFL player, an NBA player, how valued they feel, especially in the NFL.
Yeah.
If you get hurt, you can go from being a hero to a zero very, very quickly if you cannot suit up and play on Sundays. And you know, in a contact sport, injuries are just going to happen. But if you're not taking care of yourself and doing everything you can to be strong and resilient and prevent injuries, and certainly not have self-inflicted injuries through poor training practices or just trying to do too much.
Overtraining, yeah.
Overtraining, yeah. You are going to be useless to your team. And in certain environments, like in the highest levels of the military or professional athletics, like, you're going to feel that way too. They're just going to move next man up. I mean, that is the mentality that it's going to be. And you're going to find out real quick that that extra dose of training or that extra dose of toughness that you wanted to apply at the wrong time is going to come back to bite you, and it's not going to feel very good when you're on the bench.
So ultimately, for me, the wisdom came that I needed to cross train more. Different parts, because you need a cardio base. It's still an endurance base.
A huge aerobic base, right, Jason? That's what we talk about.
A huge aerobic base.
Yeah.
And so you can run yourself into the ground, and I did that. Right. One time I drove from Fort Bragg to Chicago to run a marathon for the weekend. Right. Just spur of the moment. Thought Emily was doing it. I didn't want her to check off a bucket list item before I did. I'm
not competitive.
I'm not competitive. Let's just say that. Right. And so I went there. I hit the wall like I've never hit it before. But I thought somehow that I was doing good. Oh, I got this great workout this weekend. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my knees ached for weeks, way worse than after any movement that I had in the Q course. But you can't gain enough wisdom by being broke to offset the loss of performance that you get when you're broke. You can't. Yeah. So the wisdom has to come in a preventative way, right? And so for me, it just turned into cross training. I mean, more intense stuff. With as little, minimizing the impact whenever I could.
Yeah, no, I'll admit openly that I still struggle with this to this very day. Like, I've got a torn labrum in my left shoulder right now, and I still struggle if I go to the gym and the workout calls for muscle ups or chest to bar pull ups. I know that I should be doing limited numbers of these things, but it's so hard to take the step back and to throttle myself and regulate kind of my output on those kinds of things, because I know that ultimately I can't train tomorrow if I'm hurt. And so I think maybe it's the Strong First guys. I'm trying to remember where I saw this. I heard recently that a good workout should give you more than it takes. And I have not subscribed to that theory for a lot of my life. I mean, I want for a good workout to just freaking destroy me. I mean,
treat your body like you hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I felt for a long time.
You and Dan, that's Dan's quote.
Yeah.
Treat your body like you hate it. I love the quote. Isn't the quote awesome? Treat your body like you hate it.
Yeah, right? It sounds good. Like, it sounds tough coming off the lips, and look, it feels good too. Here's the other thing. Like, it feels good for me anyway to be laying in a puddle of my own sweat, completely exhausted at the end of the workout. And by the way, there is a place for that kind of training where you pure anaerobic threshold, where you push yourself beyond your perceived limits. Like, you need to know that about yourself too. Do you need to do that 6 days a week? I would argue probably not. Do you need to do that 1 day a week? Maybe 2? For me, that feels like it's about right. But a lot of my workouts, and I'm lucky because I have a really smart wife who's good on this stuff and can check me, will remind me that, look, let's do the work for today, and then let's put it away. And we'll be back tomorrow, and we can do some more work. But if you're too sore, or if you're too injured, guess what you can't do tomorrow? You can't train. And then you sort of lose momentum, you lose progress. So if you imagine like you're kind of going on at a baseline, and a hard workout sort of drops you below your baseline, it's going to take your body a while to build back up to sort of normal. Where what you can do is you can work out maybe just a little less violently, drop just a little less below your baseline. Your body will recover faster, so that then you can work out with some level of intensity again.
Right. So dealing philosophically. Right? It sounds so much cooler. It sounds so much more like an SF guy, like a Navy SEAL, whatever, right? To say every day 110% until you're just
lactic threshold, just puking everything. Your guts out. Yeah.
And, the problem is that you will eventually get hurt. It just will happen. So you have to learn your own body. It took me a while to learn when I was close and when I wasn't, and what I mean, it sounds crazy, but your posture matters a lot, right? How you do exercises matters a lot. So if you're
You should use proper technique when lifting heavy weights?
yeah. Right, so when you're sort of
Okay.
18 or 19 and you convince yourself that if you do an extra 10 pounds on the bench press that you're definitely going to have a successful operation at the bar that night, right? Finding the prettiest girl at the bar, I just got to do 10 extra pounds on the bench press and then I'm good, right? So you take your back, you turn it into a Roman aqueduct looking thing. Right, and you see those kids across the thing, and the older generation, my grandfather's like, oh my God, look what he's doing to his back, right? When you're a kid, you don't care. You're just willing to trade. My body's going to recover. I'm better than you, old man.
Yeah.
And suck it, right? And yet you don't need that.
No, but you said willing to trade. I think that's worth diving into a little deeper because I've definitely been in that mindset where I've often been willing to mortgage my future for the short-term benefit. And I think we, as humans, particularly as Americans, do that in all sorts of facets of our life, right? Whether it's financially or otherwise. We want whatever's available today. We want that short-term benefit, whether it's the bigger muscles. And you see this with like performance-enhancing drugs and other things, right? People are willing to assume risks over the long term because I'll worry about that later, in order to have maybe a faster track or an expedited path to success or whatever they're trying to achieve in the short term. And, I'm not an old guy. You and I are both 38, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Is that okay? So we're 38. But it's old enough to know that, some of these things will come back to haunt you. And it's pretty smart to keep yourself capable so that you can make a meaningful contribution to your team, whatever that looks like, without just completely sidelining yourself.
Right, so even when you're not our age, even when you're 25 or 26 or whatever, you're 28, you're on a special forces team, you always have that opportunity every day. You can always squat 10 more pounds if you just break form. You can bench 10 more pounds if you just break form, right? The thing is that you're taking unnecessary risks. If you just do the exercise properly, learn the proper form, and do it that way, and if someone next to you does more and they break form, I mean, you're the winner still, if you ask me, right? Because you're just increasing risk. And Special Forces is a very risky thing. The more calculating you can be about the risks that you take, the better you're going to be, the longer your career is going to be, the better you're going to perform while you're there. And so the more that you can get really wise at a younger age, that would be our wish. So if there's any snake eaters out there, we love you. It was 16 years to the day that we had the Green Berets inserting into Afghanistan.
That's right.
Right? Post 9/11.
Horse soldiers.
Horse soldiers, first time since World War II that there had been a cavalry charge. I mean, it's crazy, right? So if you're out there, get wiser sooner. Don't just wear how hard you are as sort of measured in how many Motrin you take a week, because your performance is going to suffer, and your job is to perform.
Yeah, I think sort of what you were saying there about. I had it and I've lost it. God dang it. Oh, it was about taking unnecessary risks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anything that involves an inherent amount of risk already, you're not doing anybody any favors by just adding more to it. And you see this a lot. People will say like, well, screw it. I'm already in this risky profession. I could die tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And so they engage in all kinds of other risky behaviors because they feel like their life is just this inherent ball of risk. So it's like, well, I might get shot, so I should also drive my motorcycle too fast.
200 miles an hour down Fort Bragg Boulevard or Bragg Boulevard.
Yeah.
I mean,
take stupid risks in training, whatever, stay out drinking too late and then go to PT. Like, that's actually not the case. In fact, one of the things that I used to talk about with my scout platoon before I was in SF, the best compliment that I was ever paid by one of my soldiers when I was a scout platoon leader, he said, "Hey, sir, one of the things that we like about you is we know that you're crazy enough to do anything, but you're smart enough not to unless you have to." And I was like, I'm writing that down, and I may say that 14 years later on a podcast.
Yeah.
Who knows? But it was seriously the best compliment I was ever paid, which meant that, look, you're willing to assume some risks and to be tough to the very nth degree if you have to be. But especially as a leader, by the way, the people you're leading need to know that you're only going to step on that gas pedal. You're only going to push that red button when you actually need it, and not just so you can win a pickup basketball game or deadlift the most or whatever. And that's where, we used to say that being in Special Forces was a thinking man's game. I used to really love that when I was in training to become a Green Beret. I liked that our cadre and people would say, hey, look, this is a thinking man's game. And you can actually work smarter, not harder sometimes, and we applaud you for doing that. Whereas other areas of the military where I might have served would have just said, just go harder. Harder is better. We're going to do this the hardest possible way. We'll dig this fighting position with our MRE spoon because that's harder. And the Special Forces community rejected that. And I always really appreciated that about it.
Yeah.
It sounds like we have an earthquake going on in the building right now. So
hey, we're at SCARS. We build awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, we're promoting the myth that SP actually hand builds every GR1 right here. It takes him, at least 30 minutes per GR1. He does it, gracefully.
Yeah. So all the knocks and
complains.
noises. Yeah. All the knocks and noises you guys are hearing, literally, and I'm not kidding, is the UPS and the FedEx truck coming in and out, dropping off rucksacks to SCARS, and then you hear the serger or the sewing machines occasionally over there repairing rucksacks. So that's okay. I can live with that. But so I'll pivot this just a little bit because we've been kind of going on and on about how you need to be smart and not just treat your body like you hate it and keep yourself on the field so you can be an asset to your team. You also don't want to go too far with some of this, and I get really chafed sometimes when the really super high performance, high level athletes, for whatever reason, triathletes, and I love you guys, I was one for a long time.
One's a triathlete.
Yeah, spark this the most in me because you get to where you're measuring so closely, I got to keep my heart rate exactly at this, and I've got to get exactly this much sleep, and I've got to get exactly this kind of nutrition.
Monster
whatever.
just took a really deep sigh.
Yeah, Monster doesn't like that either. So what I call these folks are milk and cookies guys. And what I mean by that is, you want to be smart, but you also don't want to be beholden to your coach, to your stopwatch, to your heart rate monitor, to your little measured food plan either. You also need to have a certain amount of physical toughness that says, look, I can wake up in the middle of the night, after having had a few beers, and I could still pass the Army PT test if I have to.
You want to be Rocky or you want to be the Russian? You want to win or do you want to lose? Right?
Yeah, and so the other side of this coin, I think actually is worth mentioning. While you don't want to be stupid, you also don't want to be a weakling either. You don't want to be mental, and I'm not talking physically. I'm talking mentally. You want to be mentally tough to the point where, are you trying to get enough sleep at night? Yes. Are you trying to train smart? Yes. Are you trying to eat well? Absolutely. Do all those things. I do all those things, and I swear by all of them. However, I am not going to use a disruption of those things as an excuse for my lack of performance in something. I refuse to do that. And so you didn't have coffee this morning? Screw you. Show up and put out anyway. The baby was up crying last night? So what? Welcome to life.
So was mine.
Yeah. You're not getting no sympathy from this table, right? You still have to be able to show up and be mentally tough enough to perform under suboptimal conditions. And this is where the military athlete differs from the Olympic athlete. Look, and if you're trying to be the very best in the world at running 100 meters, I get it. You get to find every single tiny edge you can. Hyperbaric chamber to sleep in, whatever. All these things. I totally get that. But the military athlete does not have the luxury of always having a full complement of sleep, exactly the right nutrition. You're going to have to stay up for 36 hours and survive off sugar-free Red Bull and have to perform at a high level.
Or rip it.
Yeah. We had sugar-free Red Bull late in the game. Rip it's for most of my career. But you've got to be willing and able, both physically but also mentally, to perform under those conditions. So you don't want to be milk and cookies guy where you're all the way at this end of the curve and you feel like you've got to be dialed in just perfectly to perform.
Because guess what happens? Life.
Yeah, you get punched in the face by Mike Tyson, right?
Yeah, and then your plan it didn't really work out that well for you, So you got to be adaptable to suboptimal. And that's life. You got to adapt to life because the second some curveball comes, and you just start swinging and missing every time because you didn't have your milk and cookies the night before, or you didn't have your coffee, or any one of a trillion other excuses, right? I didn't sleep well last night, my neck hurts, you know, my kid was crying, my dog woke up, he shit in the corner, right? You know, it's like pick your excuse. There's going to be a million of them because life is not an easy place, right? So you've got to get a little tougher mentally at the same time.
Yeah, and so I mean, I really see it sort of as a bell curve, as I see a lot of things in life, right? I mean, I remember taking, I think it was like freshman or sophomore philosophy in college, and my professor said that a virtue is often just the middle ground between two vices, and that's always stuck with me. I don't remember much from college, but I do remember that, and I like
warrior poets. You're getting some philosophy thrown in here. You're getting some Green Beret warrior stuff.
We got a dog on the table. I mean, I got to do
and
what I
he's
can.
farting a lot.
But I really like that. And so I see a lot of things in life as sort of a spectrum or a bit of a bell curve. And so when I think about like the difference being, like you're weak on this end of the curve, mostly mentally weak, right? And then the curve kind of comes up and you're smart and you're tough. And then there's at the other far end of the curve, you're just stupid, right? You're just running into brick walls for no reason. And I think what we're trying to kind of impart here is that there is a middle ground. There is a space where, like we would encourage all the Green Berets to be, you can be smart and tough without being a milk and cookies guy on this end, or without being just a rock-eating, knuckle-dragging knucklehead on the other end and hurting yourself and then becoming a liability to your team.
Yeah, and there's also a difference between training in terms of why we train, right? You know, now I sort of train, I work out, I ride my bike to work, I'm active because I want to live a healthier life, right? I rewind a little bit and I say, you know, why was I training when I was in group was because I wanted to perform. It wasn't training for its own sake. I wasn't going to the gym trying to bench press an extra 10 pounds because that was the end unto itself. It's not. It's never the end. Okay. And so unto itself. So, you know, in life, it's the same thing. Yes, you should set goals. You know, whether it's, you know, a lifting goal or whether it's a, you know, join this branch of the military or this school in the military or do a GORUCK event or whatever the case may be, right? Pick a goal. Sometimes those goals can force you to choose between how much you want to sacrifice and how much you don't. And the more you sacrifice, the easier it is to hurt yourself. So this isn't a black and white world, right? No. What we're not advocating is that you die with perfect knees, because the worst, far worse fate than, you know, getting a little banged up is to sit on your couch with your milk and cookies, right? Or sit in your mom's basement and, you know, play video games and eat Cookie Crisp all day or something, right? I mean, get out and do stuff with your life. And so that comes at a cost. And the trick is to be smart. And there's no prescription that we can give you right here that is, this is you for your body at the whatever weight you're at now and whatever goals you have. I mean, everything is individual.
Yeah, and I think the idea of living life, though, is the key, is because, you know, living in the gym is not life. And I like gyms, you know, but that's no place to live. You know, life happens outside the gym. So what you're doing at the gym or on the trail or whatever should be helping you to be better and further enjoy the things that make up your life. And I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy the gym or have that as like an actual hobby. Maybe it is, but you know, what are the things that are important to you in your life for you to be able to do? And then whatever fitness or training regimen you're involved in should help you to do those things. And so look, if you're a barrel-chested freedom fighter and you're out there on the tip of the spear, your training regimen probably needs to help you, you know, survive and thrive on the battlefield. You know, but if you're like us now and you're not over in some stan somewhere in Central Asia,
stan somewhere,
yeah, then you know maybe that changes a little bit and you adjust accordingly. But look, that is, by the way, that is a very hard mindset to make. I mean, I was looking just last year at some website that basically said, like, look, you really only need to deadlift, squat, bench, you know, whatever, this percent of your body weight, you know, 2.5 times your body weight on the deadlift or whatever. If you can do all these things, then you're like at sort of optimal strength for a special operator, you know? And so I was using that as the benchmark. It was like, if you want to be a CrossFit athlete, it's this. If you want to be a power lifter, it's this, whatever. And I was like, oh, special operator, that's one of the categories. Okay, so I need to be able to, squat twice my body weight, deadlift 2.5 times my body weight, whatever. And my wife says, why are you using the row for special operator? And I was like, because I'm a special operator. She's like, oh, are you? You still okay?
Are present tense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like I couldn't get out of the mindset.
The president might call your red phone at any moment.
You don't know that, Jason, okay? You don't know what we're going to get into. But I was still in the mindset that my performance had to be commensurate with, whatever those benchmarks were for a special operator. And look, I'm okay with that, but to the extent that it serves me well in my actual life.
I mean, look, the yoga place on Hay Street in Fayetteville, where they talk about, you're not really competing with the person next to you. I struggle with that. I do compete with the person next to me, right?
Yeah.
Competition breeds excellence, but at the same time, I don't do it to the same level that I used to.
Yeah, I mean,
about the same things anyway.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother topic. Maybe is what you. Can,
there's always a hedge. There's always a hedge.
Yeah, but I mean, I was reading through some of the questions last night when people were submitting them for like topics for the show, and one of them was like, could you pass the selection PT test or something like that? And I'll be honest, I read it and like I took like personal offense. So I forget who wrote that. I'll leave you anonymous. But I was like, I'll do Facebook Live right now, and I'll pass the selection PT test in these simple pants and Chuck Taylors.
Yeah.
Right now, at any point, like that's the milk and cookies thing that I'll never be able to get out from under, which is that, look, there are basic standards that I hold myself to, and I'm not going to allow the circumstances of my day, my life, whatever, to allow me to get below a certain thing. And like, I can't get out from under that. Now, am I going to hurt myself in trying to like pass some like 100-mile foot race or whatever? Like, probably not. Although maybe, who knows?
If you sign up and then you show up, you might.
I did run the JFK 50 3 years in a row without really training. But the point is, like, there's a certain level of sort of fitness and readiness that I value and I think is appropriate for the kind of life that I want to be able to live. Like, if one of my buddies wants to run a half marathon this weekend, it's important to me. It may not be important to you. It's important to me to be able to say,
nor should it necessarily be important.
Yeah, look,
right?
I'm not trying to like project my priorities on anybody else, but it is important to me to be able to say, yeah, I'm in. So like that is just a standard that I uphold for myself. And if I'm traveling on the road and some GRT is like, hey, come by our CrossFit gym, come do the workout of the day, like I can do all the movements. Like I'm not the biggest and strongest guy in the world, but like that is important to me to be able to show up and do that. So you've ultimately got to decide for yourself what your priorities are. But if you're getting worse at life through your training, then that's probably a sign. If you're getting better at life and you're acquiring more skills and learning to do more things, that's probably a good sign. So that's like the litmus test for me. Am I learning new skills? Am I learning new sports? Am I getting better at life? Can I do more things at the drop of a hat? If yes, that's good. If I can do fewer things at the drop of a hat because I'm too broke, that's bad.
Yeah, you'll have to re-examine that at some point too, because like you said, it's all a bell curve, Blaine. Yeah. It's all a bell curve.
Don't use my analogies against me, Jason. I don't like it when people do that.
So, all right, you want to take questions? We got something.
Yeah, I think we have some time. Bomber, there's some questions over there that are related and
Monster is waiting.
We have one comment from Corey Murphy that's pretty good. He said he really enjoyed humping when he was in the Marine Corps, but thought civilians would never do it. But now he's a civilian and he's actually paying to do it with GORUCK.
Okay, so I'll take this. Wait, was there a question or was this a comment? Yeah, okay, so we have a Marine Corps guy who loved to hump. Marine Corps has got their own way to say it. So
we call that rucking.
We call that rucking. In Britain, they actually call it tabbing. That's its own thing. And he was surprised that anybody would ever want to do it. But now he, pays to do it with GORUCK. And so two things. I would describe rucking, maybe just one thing really. I would describe rucking as the training, and I would describe the GORUCK challenge as the goal, right? I mean, rucking to train means you put 20 or 30 pounds on your back, and you get to determine the weight, the distance, the time, all that type of stuff that you do. And there's all sorts of benefits associated with that: caloric burn, miles, movement, all these things that are, posture correction, all these types of things that are actually pretty good from rucking that maybe we didn't assume were good in the military when we had 100-pound rucks, because everyone in the military always has a 100-pound ruck.
I've never met anyone
right?
that didn't carry 100 pound ruck.
Everywhere too, right? I mean, right? But so in the military, you ruck to someplace and then you dig a fighting position all night and you don't have any food and then you don't sleep and then they give you arty simulators and they blow you out of that fighting position and then you ruck or hump or...
And you don't love it somehow.
You don't love it somehow,
That's weird.
right? You go to some other place and then you're setting in ambushes, and then you go somewhere else, and then you're digging. Before you know it, it's night again. You still haven't eaten again. You still haven't slept again, and you still have this ruck or this tick, you would call it, on your back. And somehow you don't like to ruck. And oh, by the way, it's a lot heavier than what we're advocating for rucking as training or rucking as fitness. So when it comes to 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 pounds, I mean, that's a pretty good workout.
I'll take your second point, since I know you forgot it, is that part of the reason people are doing this, and I'll include myself, is that you miss more than you would assume while you're wearing the uniform. You miss sort of the camaraderie and that association.
That was my second point, Blaine. Thank you.
I know, I can read your mind, man. Look at us. But you miss that, and I think one of the things that I've really grown to love about rucking outside the military context is that people can do it together. And look, you can do a lot of things together. You can run together. You can do a CrossFit class together. There's other things you can do, but rucking is sort of this ultimate kind of social fitness whereby you're going at a pace that you can actually have a conversation. You've got weight on your back, which for some reason like really evokes the shared hardship kind of thing. You know, you take it off and it's a relief at the end. We did one last night right here at GORUCK HQ, where the staff does a team ruck up. And we have a lot more fun after those because the beers flow more freely, the conversation flows more freely after we've put in 4 or 5 miles with rucks on our back. And look, that is a valuable thing for humans, period. So it's not shocking to me now that I understand it a little better that people actually enjoy rucking as much as they may have disliked it or claimed to dislike it when they're in the military. And this is probably a whole separate show, but rucking is going to have its day. Like, rucking is what jogging was in 1968. It's what yoga was in 1982. Mm-hmm. Rucking is going to have its day because it's just that good for you, and it's so easy. I mean, and by the way, it's not walking. Like, this is my whole thing, and I've seen this in living color. I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole, but I think it's worth it. I've seen this in living color in cities all across the country. There are running groups that say it's okay to come and walk. There's going to be a walking group also. And guess how many people show up?
Judgment.
Like, none.
Insert judgment.
No one shows up to walk at the run club. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Some people do. But generally, there's resistance to showing up and walking at the run club. People just don't want to do it because it's not aspirational. People don't want to be walkers at the run club. And look, I don't blame you. I get it.
I don't want to walk at a run club.
Once we started, there you go. Once we started introducing rucking as an option, so now, hey, we have a run club every Wednesday. You can run or you can ruck. There'll also be a rucking group. Then, overnight, people are showing up in much larger numbers with their ruck on their back, and maybe it's not even that heavy, but they feel good about showing up and rucking because rucking is aspirational. You're doing something. You're carrying a weight over a distance. You're, by definition, doing work. You're moving a load over a distance, and that feels good. And then my favorite thing is I start seeing the ruckers talking shit to the runners. Like yesterday they were walkers, but today they're ruckers. Yeah. And they're like, you skinny bitches over there, I'd like to see you do this with some weight on your back. And I'm like, I'm loving it because it's added a level of confidence and enthusiasm to the whole process. And by the way, you're getting more fit by walking with weight on your back and rucking than you would if you were just walking. It is a whole thing, man, and I'm seeing it happen all over the place. And rucking is taking off. It's happening. The rucking revolution is already starting to happen. It's only going to get better because it just makes too much sense.
We should write a book
about it. We should totally write a book about it.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm in. When do you want to have it done? Tomorrow at 5?
Tomorrow at 5, draft 1. How does that sound? So
I like it. I'm a little behind, but I think I can get it done.
I got almost 15,000 words.
That's intimidating to me.
Oh. Boom. That's what I'm talking about. So we talked about doing this real quick sort of roundup, what else is going on at GORUCK. So I basically cleared my schedule every day until 2, and I focus on writing about rucking and doing stuff like that. Occasionally stuff creeps in. Today I missed a killer GR1 shoot where they took
Me too. God
dang it. They took a bunch of firearms to show that it was really difficult almost impossible, in fact, to destroy a GR1. I missed it because I was writing about rucking, but for the greater good.
I was actually reviewing inventory purchase orders for Q1 of next year, so that was far less cool.
So,
but you're welcome.
What Blaine just said was, is if you've got any color requests, GR1,
don't send
some
them now.
random color, right? Blaine's your guy. That's what he said.
Oh God, should never said that publicly.
All right, we got anything else?
Yeah, Blaine, how is Jack's beach life treating you?
So Bomber asked how Jack's beach life is treating me. All kidding aside, it's been absolutely awesome. We have loved, Jenny and I and Penny and the boys, we've loved being out here at the beach. We've made a very deliberate effort over the last couple of years, and the process of moving to the beach has actually really accelerated the process of us being able to kind of simplify our lives a little bit. And so we're not like crazy minimalists or anything like that, but we have really made very conscious steps to limit like the number of things we have. Moving to a new city has actually been really good, and having a new phone number has allowed me to like limit my like social and professional commitments a little bit, which has also been actually really refreshing. So we live about a block from the beach. I ride my bike to work every day. We have one car in our family, and it's not mine. My car is a mountain bike. And
even if you had two cars, you would have none. So
yeah, two is none. How's that work? Yeah. No, but we've really enjoyed it. Jack's Beach is actually a really interesting place in that it's a beach town, but it's not really like a lot of the Barrier Island kind of beach towns. So if you guys are familiar with like Daytona Beach, Panama City Beach, Fort Myers Beach, Miami Beach, a lot of beaches in Florida anyway are kind of barrier islands. And so they become these kind of self-contained, almost like tourist type things, which is fine. I love tourists. I grew up in Florida. God bless them. It's great for our economy. But Jack's Beach is different. It's sort of like this long strand of coastline.
We love seeing Americans from every state here.
Yeah, for sure. But Jack's Beach and Neptune Beach, where we live, is like it's very much like a small town that just happens to be at the beach. And so we bump into people we know everywhere we go. We've made friends really quickly. I think HQ is like 12 or 13 blocks from the house. The gym's a couple blocks further than that.
Hey, Blaine, must be nice.
Must be nice. It is nice.
Yeah.
We could have a whole nother show about Must Be Nice Guy.
This is inside
Must Be
joke.
Nice Guy is a first
yeah.
cousin to Milk and Cookies Guy, but we don't need to. Those of you who know me know about Must Be Nice Guy.
Yeah. Cool.
What
So
else?
life's good.
Yeah, life's
anything
good.
else? One more? Done? Lee, you see anything?
Nothing crazy.
All right, so Monster's here. This has been his first show. If you're going to watch this, so we're doing the GORUCK Show weekly. It starts on Facebook Live. We also put it on YouTube so you can see Monster if you really want.
In HD.
Right? In HD, right? There's Monster. Yes, good boy. And then we'll also turn it into a podcast. So
Yeah, do we have an estimated timeline on when we think we'll have a podcast? I don't know.
Andy, do we have
put
an
some pressure
estimated
on
timeline?
ourselves?
Whenever
you guys want. Okay.
So it'll be
tomorrow
up
by 5?
Yeah, it'll be up tomorrow, I guess.
We can't do it that fast. You actually have to. It takes a couple days for Apple, iTunes, and all that stuff.
So next week.
When the book's out.
Yeah,
That's
so in the
unacceptable.
podcast, so this week I was actually up in New York and sat down with Alex Stabdahl, who finished selection, and we filmed it as well. So that'll be in the podcast, and probably put that on YouTube as well. That was a good chat. So we'll probably work some of those in, not necessarily to the Facebook Live front, but into sort of the other two media. So
We have some cool visitors here at GORUCK HQ,
Yeah.
so we'll work them in as well.
yeah, cool. All right, well, especially since this is Monster's first show, have a good one, and don't do anything we wouldn't do tonight.